welcome to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly hangout every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific right here on GameSpot.com. How you doing? I'm your host, Danny Dwyer, joined by Mr. Justin Haywald. How you doing, Justin?
Howdy, Danny.
And Scott Butterworth's here.
Hello.
Sir,
Yes.
welcome to the team. Welcome to GameSpot. Welcome to the lobby.
It's my first lobby ever.
Do you like what we did with the place?
I love that we're surrounded by games. I'm very tempted to just ignore the show and just go pick games off the shelf.
You can probably pick a couple now. Don't get too used to it because we're actually moving floor in like a couple of weeks' time. So we haven't got too many shows.
I started like a week and a half ago. They're like, yeah, we're moving. It's like, okay. So my desk is still just like a clutter of nothing.
It's great. All this stuff we're going to figure out a way. This concrete wall with all the signatures on it, which you probably can't see in any of the shots.
No,
anyway.
it's there.
Nobody even knows it's there.
Totally, it's there.
Nobody knows. Oh, Mary's on it. Mary's on it. This whole concrete situation here, with like, just do not know what to do with that. Look at all those.
We're gonna take some lovely photographs of it and we'll frame them. We'll put them on the wall. Yeah, it'll be great.
I wonder if there's any like something you can like stick on and like transfer.
Do you remember masturbating, which is like not as dirty as it sounds, but you could like
First
blow
time
up.
on the show, Scott.
This was a thing. This is a big internet thing. You remember this, right? You
Masturbating?
could print, the same image over multiple pages out of a traditional 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and you put them all up. And
we didn't talk about masturbating in public.
Oh,
the internet will know.
The
internet knows exactly what I'm talking about. We could do that.
I got past, whenever I saw the baiting part of that.
It just had an inappropriate sounding name.
I like
but it is not inappropriate.
Let's all masturbate once the show is over. How about that?
I was curious, Scott Butterworth, are you with the Mrs. Butterworths?
No,
family?
I actually, I wrote like a big blog post when I started. It was just like, here's who I am and where I came from. And literally the opening is like, yes, my mom is Mrs. Butterworth, and that is my real last name. And there are a lot of great jokes related to my last name. So.
I bet no one's ever said that to you before.
I've basically heard them all at this point. Every now and then I get a new one, and it's really exciting when I hear one that I genuinely haven't heard before. Because there are so many that when there's a fresh one, it's like, oh yeah.
It's great. Every time we have a new person join the team, when Mahardy joined, it was great. It was like everyone suddenly had Mahardons around the office.
Hey. And I gave him a Mahardy handshake.
That works really good.
You make all kinds of pirate jokes, Mahardy, right? You know.
I miss it because O'Dwyer's like literally like name a poem with O'Dwyer. It's just.
Well, but there's David O'Doherty, the comedian. So you got the DOD.
That's true. There was a Daniel O'Donnell who is a terrible singer in Ireland, which I used to get a lot. But thankfully that hasn't.
You're going to get angry tweets from all his fans now.
I know, yeah. All those 90-year-old grannies in Ireland who love Daniel O'Donnell.
They love Twitter.
Anyway, we've talked a lot about nonsense since we started. Let's talk about video games. Yesterday, we got a brand new announcement, courtesy of IGN Turkey, who apparently had an exclusive who didn't tell anyone, including Ubisoft. But today, we found out for reals that there is a new Ubisoft game coming next year, in fact, February 16th. Far Cry.
Early February.
Early February?
Late February. Yeah. Early in the year, late February.
Okay, Far Cry Primal is what it's been said. There's a trailer out for it at the moment, which apparently has got a bunch of gameplay showing off the game in action. Justin, first of all, what do we know exactly about Far Cry Primal?
Well, we know that it's a Far Cry game, obviously. I mean, when you see the trailer, you see the gameplay. Like, this is obviously very clearly a Far Cry game. You're going to be exploring. You have the kind of cool melee weapons, bow and arrow, spear. Like, the gameplay definitely feels reminiscent of the Far Cry series. And in this game, but you don't have guns. You don't have a lot of the other mainstays of the series. Instead, you're going to be set during the Ice Age. You're going to be looking for and fighting against other cavemen, basically. And it's not clear how that gameplay is going to work out, whether it's going to be a multiplayer game or whether it's going to be something like Rust or like completely survival, not survival horror, but a survival game within that atmosphere. But you are going to be fighting against these guys both for territory and you see people taking down woolly mammoths, fighting against saber-toothed tigers, like the animals that were alive during that period and trying to survive and create your own weapons and be in that environment.
It's interesting because that whole Rust, the survival, like even Minecraft survival maps, and there's a bunch of, especially in the PC space, there's a bunch of games, first-person games primarily, which are about, getting equipment, building up defenses, fighting antagonists. Like The Forest is a game I played a lot of last year, which is very much like that. But most of these games tend to be multiplayer focused because of the very reason of like creating AI that will able to be work in teams is quite difficult. But when you look at this trailer, a lot of this looks like it's single player linear stuff, right?
Well, like a standard Far Cry.
What I read in the feature that we actually posted on the site earlier today is that it is, according to the developers, they say it's a single player focused experience. I don't think that rules out multiplayer necessarily. It's possible that there will be a multiplayer component in addition to any single player, But what I've read so far, it is single-player focused, and in theory, you are a character who tames the wilderness.
Right.
Is a quote from one of the developers. So I have a feeling we're going to be, instead of riding jet skis and gyrocopters, we might be riding mammoths or saber-tooth tigers or other era-appropriate animals.
And shooting humans and shooting animals and doing all that good work. So let's talk about that then. That's the sort of interesting thing. Scott, we were talking before we went live about how Far Cry is sort of a mainstay of the first-person shooter. It's kind of the game that popularized, at least in the mainstream, the idea of the open-world shooter, which has become sort of ubiquitous over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's very much a game about like outposts and shooting people with guns and big explosions. So there's a lot of interest in like this is very much, incredibly different to Far Cry, thematically at least.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they compensate for the lack of technology. I mean, especially given that Far Cry 3 and 4 were so vehicle-driven. I mean, again, I had just mentioned the gyrocopter, and you had all these, sea vehicles, commonly known as boats.
Yes.
Although you also had like jet skis and other things. That's sort of what I meant.
And trucks
Didn't come out
and
right.
jeeps, like
a
lot
of
of the game.
Of course. That's all been around even since like Far Cry 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, given that
since Far Cry 1.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts the gameplay. I mean, in theory, you can throw a spear. You can I saw there are bows and arrows apparently in the trailer, so they can sort of compensate for the lack of automatic weapons in certain ways, but. Yeah, it's just thematically it's going to be so drastically different. It'll be interesting to see which gameplay pillars actually carry over and how much it feels like a Far Cry game. I mean, I think, outposts are a really interesting example. I mean, that has become a mainstay of the Far Cry experience, is, clearing out enemies from a particular territory and claiming it for yourself. And it's an idea that was even carried over into Assassin's Creed, but, greater and greater importance.
In fact, a lot of carryover between all of these series, including Watch Dogs and everything. So,
absolutely.
Are we going to have outposts in Far Cry Prime where you're like, going up to the top of a woolly mammoth and hitting Y and looking around?
Well, I think there has to be some aspect of that, some part of that gameplay. The interesting thing is, if it's not going to be a multiplayer-focused game, this is obviously a game where you have a group. Like, you see the whole cutscene behind you, where you're not just a lone wolf taking down this woolly mammoth by yourself. You have a group of guys behind you. Are you always going to have this PC group kind of following behind you and helping you out, taking over these things?
It's interesting because we're looking at the Far Cry 4 intro here, and like we see a lot of this before a game like Far Cry comes out. Like Far Cry 3, the story trailer they had was all about you and your buddies and whatnot. And in both cases, all of this stuff was like done and dusted within the first 5-10 minutes of the game. So I wonder if a lot of what we're seeing of Primal as well is, just the setup, and then eventually you're sort of left to your own devices, and it's not as linear as you think.
That seems to be the case, again, from the article that I was reading earlier today. Your character is the last surviving member of his hunting party, is what I've read.
Yeah.
So in theory, yes, all of the people you see in the trailer who you're hunting with are all going to be dead.
Well, that's going to be a lot easier to make.
Yes, that's true.
We saw how difficult it was for Valve to get Alex Vance to, play along for an entire game. So I imagine like 3 other people will probably be a bit too much.
Yeah, I have a feeling there are going to be some casualties pretty early on in that game.
Yeah, sounds like it. Lots of emotions, I imagine.
Yeah, so many all of the emotions.
So I guess prehistoric games are the new thing. 2016, right?
Are there other? Wait, what prehistoric games am I forgetting?
Ark.
Well, okay, prehistoric looking.
Well, so the one that I had mentioned prior to us rolling, which I don't know if you're hinting at, but Horizon Zero Dawn, which was a hit at E3 and has kind of been pretty dormant since then, as far as I know. I haven't seen much coverage of it. But it has a similar, like, you are a hunter fighting against the wilderness, and you have, bow and arrow, and you're sneaking through the brush against, outnumbered or not outgunned, but like out-teethed. I don't know. When you're fighting dinosaurs or other. Yeah, and obviously that's like a post-apocalyptic setting, so you have leftover technology from the modern era, and Primal will not have that since it takes place, the BC era. But still, like, you can see thematic similarities. Again, it has an end of the world kind of vibe. Horizon. So it'll be interesting to see how similar those two games end up being. But I immediately thought of Horizon when I saw the trailer for Primal.
Yeah, very much, I guess, in terms of its aesthetics anyway, very similar. And also in terms of the hunting. So it's going to be interesting whether this lands closer to Horizon Zero Dawn or whether it lands on the other side, just in the Rust side of things, where it's very much a game that is a sandbox. It's not actually this linear sort of story-led thing, because Far Cry kind of skirts that line, right? There is a story happening, but really it's sort of like an open world sandbox for you to fuck about in.
And they've said they've made it clear that it's not just going to be like the other games where you're finding all these weapons. You are going to be crafting and creating and trying to discover basically new technology. I mean, everything's going to be new technology, but like I don't know if there's going to be a huge difference between like using a whale jaw or using a bear jaw versus using a wolf jaw. Like, what if you find a whale? Yeah, all the weapons you could make out of a whale.
Yeah, whales back then.
You're going to be literally inventing everything.
Yeah.
It's going to be like you're going to be the person who made fire.
You're the wheel.
Yeah. You're going to like television.
The internet.
You're just going to, it's like.
All this knowledge you already have going into the game.
I know. I want to play the game where you're playing as somebody in like prehistoric era with the mind of somebody from 2015.
What if they're just M. Night Shyamalaning us? What if this is like The Village? It took place in 2015 all along. Like the game ends with like, you know, the characters from Far Cry 3 crashing into like, wait a minute, and it just turns out it wasn't prehistoric times
you
at all.
like blink and you see an Abstergo logo in
Yeah,
your
exactly.
eyes. You're like, no!
It's all coming together.
Well,
damn it.
So the thing that Horizon has is that it does have these huge creatures and beasts that you're fighting against. Is that kind of stuff going to exist in Far Cry at all? I mean, Far Cry, they've established that this is somewhat realistic, but Far Cry also takes a lot of liberties with reality, and that's something that I want to see in Far Cry
To its benefit,
Primal.
mostly, as well.
It makes it fun, it makes it exciting, and I want to see dinosaurs. You can't have, I know it doesn't, like I know that didn't exist, dinosaurs did not exist at the same time as man, but I still want to take down a T-Rex.
Hey man, if Tomb Raider 1 can get away with it, I'm sure Far Cry can get away with it this time. Last question. Obviously, when we see a unnumbered title to a Far Cry game, immediately comparisons to stuff like Blood Dragon comes along. Do either of you know if this is going to be full price? Do we expect it to be, you know, mid-range? It's not DLC, you know that.
I don't think they've been very clear on the price. I mean, it's coming out very soon. It's
Very
gonna be,
soon.
It's going to be based on Far Cry 4, obviously, so I think that'll limit what they have to put into the game. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a full experience, like a full AAA game. Does that mean that they're going to offer it at a lower price because they were able to put it out more quickly? Maybe, maybe not.
I wouldn't be shocked if it's a Blood Dragon kind of situation, if it was like a $40, very substantial standalone, but not a full title, given that it isn't numbered, it is coming out very soon. And in fact, I mean, it leaked sort of a day early, it seemed, but the fact that, I mean, I hadn't heard anything about this until yesterday, so that's pretty impressive. We made it through con season and E3 and PAX and blah, blah, blah. Never heard a word about it.
Like, I mean, leaked early, but it's still coming out in about 4 months.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I honestly don't know what to expect. We haven't really received indication from Ubisoft one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the fact that it's not numbered leads me to believe that it could be a Blood Dragon situation, but who knows? It could be a full $60 wide, deep experience.
All right, time will tell. We'll have to find out. So thank you very much, Justin and Scott, for coming out, talking all about Far Cry. And thank you for watching. Let us know what you think of Far Cry Primal. Are you looking forward to it? And I guess the main question is, would you like it to be a $60 game, or would you like something a little bit smaller like Blood Dragon? Not many games coming out in February, so maybe the former for me. Let us know in the comments below. We'll be back in a second. Loads more on today's episode of The Lobby, but first up, here's a trailer for WWE 2K16. It's our boy Daniel Bryan from Dancers podcast here to tell you all about the video game. Here we go. Oh my God, it's happened. The music video games are back. Justin, they're back. Scott, they're back.
I heard.
Finally!
Rock Band 4 is
true,
out.
yeah.
Guitar Hero Live is out in like 2 weeks' time.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's out. People were so excited when these were announced.
Where are they now?
Well, now people are kind of just, oh yeah, that's cool.
It's really strange that like we waited for so long for anyone to make a move on this, and then they both release within 2 weeks of each other. It's,
They had to.
Yeah.
like it's a very pre-Christmas thing. Do you think like this type of game?
You have to get it on shelves now, get people aware of it, and like those things are going to take up a lot of shelf space. That was one of the things that killed it in the first place, is that you have this very expensive thing, takes up a lot of shelf space, and that means other things can't be on store shelves. And a lot of retailers didn't like doing that.
Yeah. Rock Band 4 out today.
Yes.
Guitar Hero Live out on October 20th. So both these games have seemingly done a good job of like ensuring that you can use old instruments. There is access to back catalog, a lot of it as well. You put your finger up immediately.
Rock Band is one that's very compatible with the previous catalog, with previous instruments. Guitar Hero is a very different experience. So I wouldn't say both games. Rock Band is definitely trying to be a similar game to what it was historically. Guitar Hero is going in a completely different direction, but we can discuss that.
Cool. All right, let's talk with you, Scott, about the review, first of all. 7 out of 10
that was
on
me.
GameSpot.com. What are your main takeaways from Rock Band 4?
The biggest takeaway is that it's still Rock Band, which is both good and bad. I mean, it was actually pretty difficult for me because I'm a huge Rock Band fan. I loved the previous games. I played an embarrassing amount of Rock Band 2, both by myself and with other people. And so playing this was like, oh yeah, it's a lot like Rock Band 2 again, which is like, well, that's an experience that I loved and that I actually scored a 10 at a different outlet that I used to work for. And so,
But different time and place.
Yeah, and so that was like Rock Band 2 about 6, maybe even 7 years ago at this point. So it was kind of like, well, how do I score an experience that is something that I still love but has now, hasn't changed much in the intervening period. And I say Rock Band 2 and not Rock Band 3 because Rock Band 3, introduced the Pro controller and tried to be more of almost a teaching tool. And this really steps back from that and goes back to the party game experience of the first and second game. So really, I focus more on 2 than 3 for that reason. And what I kind of landed on is, it is a great experience, but without more sort of new ideas and without more content, truthfully, it was difficult for me to give it anything higher than a 7, which I'd like to point out is still a good score. I mean, on the GameSpot scale, 7 is good, and it is. I mean, Rock Band is an incredibly thrilling experience. It's something you can share with people. I was very excited to get people to come play with me when I was reviewing it. Had a great time. I just wish that there had been more new ideas, more new content, more stuff to really sink your teeth into.
Okay, let's dive into that then. First of all, what's the sort of main progression? Is it a career mode? Are you on the road like you are in previous Rock Band games?
Yeah, so the basic setup for the campaign is you are a young band starting out and growing your career and gradually playing bigger shows. It's essentially the same premise we've seen throughout every music game since the phenomenon started. The sort of novel approach this time is you can choose between, like there's a good example on screen. You can choose a different path depending on what you want to do. You can take, you can buy a van and tour the country in a van, or you can get a manager and you'll get more money if you pick a manager, but you get more fans if you choose a van. But it's all these binary decisions and
on these menus that look.
It's just menus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what kind of ruined it for me. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I like the idea that you're making choices. But one, the choices basically boil down to which costume items you unlock. That's all it really means. You're going to get items either way. Your choice just dictates which ones you get. And second, the fact that the story is relayed entirely through menu text is just kind of disappointing. I mean, in my review, I refer back to loading screens from Rock Band 2, and loading screens are normally so boring, right? But in Rock Band 2, it would take your custom-created characters and it would show them in sort of different band-related settings, like in a practice space or on a train with their instruments.
Yeah, on the subway, I remember.
You just kind of sense that your band was a real thing, and it was so great. And it was so subtle and it was so relatable without any dialogue or any real characters besides your own.
So it doesn't have any of that soul.
It just doesn't. So it just has menu text, which to me is just not as relatable. It's not as immersive, and so the whole campaign structure was just kind of lost on me. It just I didn't really get much out of it. And it doesn't ruin the gameplay. You can still jump in and have fun, but
to be fair, nobody plays Rock Band for the story.
And that's like I was just saying, it doesn't ruin the gameplay if you're going in just to rock out with your friends. This doesn't affect that. It's just that it didn't add anything when it really could have. So to me, it feels like a missed opportunity.
And
so I didn't really
a lot of time has passed since the previous game as well. Let's talk about what is perhaps the most difficult thing to do as a reviewer when it comes to these games is these games oftentimes live and die on how much you enjoy the track list, and that's like such an incredibly subjective thing. Like I went in and played it, and it was like 2 or 3 tracks that I really, really wanted. And when I go back and I've owned, I think maybe almost all of the Rock Band and Guitar Hero games at one stage, And the ones that I really, really love are the ones that had like 10 songs that I've always wanted to play, or like I could get the DLC for it. So talk about that for a little while. Like, what is the track list like in Rock Band 4? Did you have any experience like pulling in tracks that you'd already bought in previous Rock Band games? What was that all like?
Yeah, well, we've been testing all the DLC stuff. Today, actually, I'm hoping to put up an FAQ of sorts
Cool.
within the next, like hopefully sometime later today that covers a lot of those topics. But to speak to the track list, it was a little disappointing. I mean, you were saying that you would always look for those tracks that got you really excited, like you couldn't believe that this was in the game, you couldn't wait to play it. I feel like for a lot of people, this list didn't have too many of those songs. It had a lot of sort of like lesser known songs from big artists or bands that nobody had ever really heard of or care about. And so, I mean, reading comments ahead of time in any preview of the game, the comments are immediately like, oh, the track list sucks, this game's gonna be awful.
Haven't they almost painted themselves into a corner with that, though? Because like the previous games have had some of the like best.
Yeah, they've used
songs.
all the good tracks. I mean, like, dude, there's so much good music from all time that like there's never not gonna be good tracks. But you're right that when it comes to licensing, it can be difficult. You run out of stuff that you can reasonably acquire after a while. And yeah, there are like 2,100 DLC tracks from history.
Yeah, what they seem to be pulling for is you've played these games before, and now you're going to be able to transfer those over to this current game.
Right.
Yeah, which I have, again, we're experimenting with that, but so far I haven't heard any real negative feedback from anybody. It seems to be working out okay, and I appreciate Harmonix's commitment to making that possible. But in defense of the on-disc songs, because again, so many people were just hating on it outright, I think there are actually a lot of sort of hidden gems within there that I found, songs that I didn't expect to love, that I either grew to love the song itself, or at the very least, I enjoyed playing it. Sometimes songs that you don't necessarily listening to have like an interesting hook that can translate really well to gameplay. So I found stuff to love, even within a list that at first glance doesn't look super strong.
Yeah, I have a Spotify playlist of a couple of songs that I played while just going in there and having a jam at lunchtime one day. Just like there's a couple of ones that I picked up that I don't know before.
You might be surprised by the stuff that stands out, and yeah.
I guess the last sort of question about this is another sort of difficult aspect of reviewing a game like this is the cost required to buy a game like this. So give us a sort of a breakdown of like new instruments. Are there packs? Did you use old instruments? Did the new ones work better? Like, how much is it worth? Like, where do you feel the value prospect really is in Rock Band 4?
That's another thing we're working on testing, and something that Harmonix and Mad Catz are both really committed to. Like, they really wanted to make sure that as many instruments as possible were compatible. In fact, within the review, if you go to the site, there's a link to a Mad Catz chart that illustrates basically all of the instruments that should work with Rock Band 4, including like Guitar Hero and third-party instruments.
And they do, like, most of them seem to be pretty like compatible. It's actually like surprising how many of them are.
It's a substantial majority, I think is the way I phrased it in the review. And yeah, it does seem to be the bulk of the instruments actually do work. And there are new instruments if you want to go out, and if you haven't hung on to your stuff, you can go buy the band in a box. And I know a lot of people balk at the price tag, and it does seem pretty pricey, but and I kind of grappled with that when writing the review, because it's like, man, do you treat this as a normal $60 game? And I actually had a really interesting conversation with Peter Brown, our reviews editor, about this. And basically what it came down to is it's not really up to reviewers to decide the value of $1. I mean, $250 to one person is not $250 to another person. Really, depends on the individual and their income and what they consider disposable.
Or that $250 isn't actually, it's actually $60 because they own all the instruments.
Exactly.
Or they don't want to play drums, or
or they got it at a discount, like it's on sale, and
a year from now when all this stuff is half price anyway.
Yes. So for me, that didn't really factor into the review, although it is an important consideration that, again, will be covered in the frequently asked questions that I'm putting together, and how all that stuff works and what's backwards compatible and all that stuff. So that's sort of how I approached that portion of the review.
Cool. 7 out of 10 on GameSpot.com. Justin, you looking forward to playing it at all?
I am. I'm a little surprised at some of the things that were taken away. Like, you mentioned this a little bit in the review, and like, it is a great experience when you're just playing with friends. But it feels like this game is meant to be played with friends. This is no longer a single-player experience, both in terms of how the progression, the story that you're going through. Like, yeah, sure, it's not that big, but it doesn't really give you that compelling hook that you might have had in previous games. And the first thing that I did was like, oh, I'm going to play the game by myself. I want to get a little bit better. It's been a while. I'm a little bit rusty. I pick up the guitar. I'm like, I didn't quite get that under my fingers. Let me practice that. Oh, there is no practice mode.
Really?
Yeah.
Nope,
it's like,
not a practice mode.
So you're gonna just get good by playing the game, just kind of more like the original Rock Bands, the original Guitar Heroes. So it's not horrible, but it's when you've gotten used to those little touches, the small things that make it fun to play and that make you a better player, it feels like those are missing, and it's strange that those were taken out.
Wow.
And to add one thing to that, Harmonix has stated that they're working on adding content, and we should expect, a major patch that's potentially free that includes new gameplay and maybe even things like a practice mode by like December-ish.
Okay.
But I didn't really consider that in the review because that's more like what Rock Band will eventually maybe become, not the product that you can actually go out and buy today. So I didn't really consider that. But it's, just something that's good to know if you are a fan or if you are considering buying the game. In the future, you may get more content.
Cool. All right. Scott Butterworth, thank you so much. Justin
Absolutely.
Haywald, thank you very much. God damn it. You had, what? Really?
I'm glad he did it, so I didn't have to.
Do any of you guys live on like a lower ground apartment?
I do,
You
yes.
do?
Yes.
Because you just moved into a
I
spot,
did.
right?
I'm living out of boxes currently.
Good call, because that means you can play the drums. I just moved into a place that's like underneath this comedian dude who he's probably already angry that like myself and my girlfriend's 2 cats have fights at like 4 o'clock in the morning and make all this noise.
You're giving him material. It'll
Yeah,
be great.
there you go. Yeah. Maybe I should just start playing drums then.
I'll have a whole set about his terrible neighbor.
We'll see how it works out. Thanks for coming on, talking to us all about Rock Band. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think. Rock Band, have you kept any of your instruments from Guitar Hero Rock Band? You're going to wait and see what Guitar Hero Live is all about. Let us know in the comments below. All right, we got a bunch more stuff on today's show. Star Wars Battlefront is out today, the beta is, as is Metal Gear Online, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But first of all, here's a trailer for a new Transformers game. It's Transformers Devastation. I was about to say Dimensions. That's a Lego game, different toy property. Transformers Devastation.
Insecticons! Welcome, Autobots! You plan to cyberform Earth? I don't plan to do anything. I have already started. Autobots, we must move quickly. Sounds like fun. I'm gonna beat you your own spot, Autobot! Now, see if you can beat me!
I did not see that coming.
It's over, Megatron. I will not let you take my victory away from me!
The Star Wars Battlefront beta is live. That game is out just about a month away, November 17th. And we've got the whole crew here. Justin Haywald, Aaron Sampson, Robert Handlery. You're all here to talk about the Star Wars Battlefield beta. Mostly these two, though, because you guys have been playing it all morning.
Yeah.
Aaron Sampson, first of all, what's in this beta? Where can you get it? What platforms? What can you play?
I think it's going to be open in 2 days. It's just by invite right now. I think anybody who wants to is going to be able to get in on the 8th.
Cool.
It includes Hoth and Walker Assault mode, and it involves Sullust Drop Zone, which is like kind of team deathmatch, King of the Hill.
And there is co-op, right?
Yeah, they also have the
on Tatooine.
co-op in there.
But no one plays that.
Well, the game, when you start up the beta, the game very clearly tells you you don't have any gear, go get gear before you play these other modes.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
they want you to go experience the 2 other modes before Walker.
And it's PC and PS4. You guys are playing it in the office right now, right?
Yeah.
Is there an Xbox One beta as well, do we know?
Haven't gotten codes for it yet.
I don't think so.
All right.
I don't know.
Time will tell.
Eventually, yeah.
Okay, so what's most important then is what you guys think about it. There's been a lot of chat in the office this morning about it. Seems to be waxing and waning. Aaron, first of all, what do you think? You're a massive Battlefield fan. What do you think about Battlefront?
As a guy who plays a lot of multiplayer shooters, this thing doesn't seem targeted at me. It's like I feel like the advertising was targeted at me, but it's a very, very simple, very casual game. Like, it's got dead simple unlocks. Most of the abilities you can get in like a morning. and they don't do like all that of different things, and each mode is just really straightforward. So, like, yeah, it's mechanics are solid, but in terms of gameplay itself, I'm kind of already bored.
But it's the most important that it gets the basics, that it gets the gameplay down, and you can add, like, this is just the beta. You're going to layer on the more difficult stuff.
Right. That's what we're hoping for. I think that's why initial kickoff today was a little boring, was because it's just the same stuff. Because Rebels and Imperials start off or have the same weapon.
Okay.
And so it's like you're firing it. I guess Aaron says there's kind of like an active reload with recharging, but there isn't really a reload. You're just finding a corridor and you're just.
So everyone's doing the same weapon. There's no like different classes or weapon loadouts right from the start.
No classes.
Yeah, there's no classes. You can buy the different weapon loadouts. It has a little bit of a card system, which is just your abilities, and there's some customization to it. But I don't know. Like I feel like there's a thing where they're solving problems they created. Like the game has a sniper rifle in it. Like, why do you need a sniper rifle in Battlefront? The game has X-Wings and TIE fighters, but like that's just solving the Walker assault mode problem. Like the original movie, right? It was snow speeders versus walkers. That was cool. It was fun, right? But then
Yeah, you had guys on the ground. Because you had the assault on the Hoth base itself. You had guys defending the base, but it feels like it's kind of expanding that out and melding them in a way. Maybe that's not as true to the movie, but I feel like it keeps it
Is it having
exciting.
that same problem that the Battlefield 3 had, where the aerial fights were just completely disconnected from what was happening on the ground?
go ahead.
I think Battlefield. I'm not gonna go Battlefield 3, but like, it's funny. Like coming in, I really was just pissed off with aerials and the aerial game in Battlefront entirely. I was like really upset. First off, I couldn't even hook up my joystick. Get the hell out of here.
Really?
Yeah, that's for PC. I mean, that was a huge thing for me. Maybe it's this is just beta, of course. But just now, a couple hours ago, I was playing and I was in A-Wing, and I started to get some kills for the first time. Aerial kills. If you watch all the footage, all you see is this. Just people crashing because the aerial game is just too freaking fast.
Okay.
It needs to be slowed down drastically.
Because the maps don't seem that big, so you're
They're
just kind
not.
of speeding over everything, right?
Right.
There's just a constant rain of like TIE fighters and A-Wings and X-Wings falling out of the sky.
Right.
Maybe people have just found that to be really effective at killing people.
Okay, so I will be.
It looks and sounds cool though, that's for sure.
Like I'm at the point now where like I dislike the air game so much. I'll be running up a trench and I'll see like an X-Wing icon and I'll like skirt around it.
Can we just reverse this back a little bit?
No, and we
X-Wing
can't.
icon.
Okay, now back to the guys. We were talking about earlier. Oh, you just walk over it and you immediately get in. There is an initiation.
There's a cooldown, yeah. Or, sorry,
No, you have to.
charge
It's a
up.
pickup and then you have to turn it on.
So it's not like in other Battlefield games, not to be constantly comparing it, but just what I know. Other Battlefield games where jets spawn, vehicles spawn, and you go to it and you get in the jet and then you go up. And if you die, the chances are you can respawn back close to the jet and start again. In this one,
It's yes and no.
So in this, you pick up icons that randomly appear in the level?
It's like Mario Kart, because why not?
Well, I would say yes and no. There's a cooldown. So like, there were times where I was in a TIE fighter, I crashed or died, however you want to say, and I was able to respawn and go back to that same location and pick up the same icon again.
Okay.
So there is that sometimes, but the thing about Hoth in the Walker Assault is that it's a never-changing map. You're following the walkers to the final destination, so things do change, and for instance, and then on the Rebel side, like I got on the A-Wing once, and I never saw that icon again.
But that seems so strange, because then presumably, like one of the things in the old Battlefield games was the people who wanted to fly those jets they went to go and find them and get them. Whereas in this one, it seems like if you're just running around, you just wander into one. So then the people who are getting those flying ships aren't necessarily people who even want to be playing them.
And so it gets even more confusing when you have the hero system added in, because the heroes are not skill-based. They're also like Mario Kart coin pickups.
So you can just pick up something in your Darth Vader?
They rotate around. So you never know where they're going to be. So you just run, you grab one, it's like, oh, I can be Darth Vader, and then it teleports you somewhere random on the map.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so it's not even like, you can't just pop it and then be like, oh, I'm going to charge through these stormtroopers. You get teleported, and then you got to go figure out where the stormtroopers went. And like, it's just stupid. So like, okay, like the footage there too, there's things that happen, like there was
What's Darth Vader doing?
See ya.
He's taking a knee.
Whoa! What?
There was,
He took a knee.
It's beta, man.
He got tired.
So if two heroes meet in the middle of the field, right? they can lock lightsabers, and there was like this video about how great that is. But like, if you think that through to its logical conclusion, if two heroes are locked together in like a QTE, they're all just gonna get shot in the back.
All right, yeah.
Like they're just gonna be stuck and they're gonna get grenaded. So like,
Yeah, the heroes could be completely removed. That's the one thing I just do not want to see.
Some
ever.
people who are listening could say that, oh, like a lot of these issues are like nitpicky, like it's the way that mechanic works or how that feels. But the fact that you guys are like fans of these types of games, fans of Star Wars, and you're not feeling impassioned and you're not thinking that this is like a great game, that to me speaks volumes. Like you're a massive fan of Star Wars, and this just doesn't do it for you. Like you almost you wanted to, but it doesn't.
Yeah, that's why I'm like kind of like so sad. Is that when the more I play, I'm like, nah, this is great, man. Just listen to that TIE fighter. Yeah. Keep going, play, man, play. And I mean, I'm getting some of that. And like again, I was playing as a TIE fighter, and I was finally getting some kills. You know, there's a whole thing where, you know, as a rebel, you get the uplinks to allow Y-wings to come in to basically use the ion cannon on the AT-AT, so now they can be hit by ground fire. And I was stopping. I know, shut up, Aaron. Stop. I'm onto something here.
I'm with you.
It was kind of cool because I was stopping the Y-wings from like I was shooting them down. I felt like that was finally useful because, you know, as we were saying earlier, like what the hell are these ships doing up there?
Yeah.
But the issue is that the Y-wings come so quick that it's like the aerial game is just slow the fuck down. Like Y-wings is like, oh, there's a Y-wing. Oh, he's out. All right, well, I didn't do anything there. Like.
Well, that's what those ships are. I mean, that makes sense. It just doesn't make sense for this map. Like, those are aerial dogfighters.
Right. You can still slow it down. I don't know. But yes, it's just as an initial kickoff for this beta,
Yeah.
it's a little disheartening.
And it's not really, like, and you say beta, like you've been through the mill on this like so many times with Battlefield games. Like when it's a beta a month before the game comes out, it's not a
It's
beta.
a demo.
Yeah.
Like Rainbow, it's funny. I just played Rainbow Six Siege. They called that a beta. That was like an alpha. Like they were still like legitimately working out bugs. This is clearly just a demo to get people in. And to be fair, I've been talking to people in this office who are not huge shooter fans and like who are willing to let Star Wars canon just go out the window.
Yeah.
And they enjoy this game because like, I don't know, they're not that twitchy of a person. It has a generous aim assist. It has very simple mechanics.
Right.
So I think that's their audience. Like I think their audience are people who are not huge shooter
I
fans.
totally agree. They're
Well,
gonna
the
be
audience are people who are excited about this upcoming movie. Star Wars
That's
Episode
exactly
7 is
right.
coming up in December.
I disagree.
That's crazy.
I know. I think that's entirely.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, and that's why when I see like Return of the Jedi, like Luke running across Hoth, it pisses me off. It's like, did you just put him in the right clothes? Like, was it that hard?
Well, that's the
was
argument,
it that hard
man.
to put him in the right clothes?
The argument was that he wasn't a Jedi on Hoth, man. He was still
All right,
learning.
I'm reeling this one back in.
No, so I did an interview with the devs recently.
Right.
The reason that they did
I read it.
The reason they did Return of the Jedi, Luke, was because they wanted a Jedi who's more powerful. Like this
Right.
was the version that we saw on
But it
Hoth
won't
originally.
be because some like 12-year-old kid's gonna get the power up and then gonna be the Jedi, so not gonna be that powerful.
Yeah, he's like,
how do I use Luke Skywalker? It sounds like
powerful
they've
compared
made
to
the
Hoth.
most like this feels like the like Nerf arena blast of first-person shooters. It's like this very basic version. It's like it's for mainstream gamers or something.
You
It
know,
is, yeah.
that audience is probably out there. Like
They're gonna like it.
the audience who wants to take down a walker with an iPad version of a QuickTime events.
Yeah.
Like when you put the tow hook on, it's like
That
you
is
do
really
the
bad.
QTE. Like for some reason you're already flying it and you can't just keep flying in circles.
Do you
Like,
know what this is?
No.
Did you hear this? So in the Snowspeeder, you get to, of course, use the iconic harpoon cable and do the laps around the legs.
I've seen it in Lego, not Lego Dimensions. I've seen it in
in every
Shadow of
game
the Empire?
ever.
Is
yeah,
there
no,
anything
the other Toys to Life thing. Disney Infinity. They have it in
okay.
that. It's
Well-
it's like in every Star Wars game
Right.
by law.
So yeah, by law, well, yeah, you got a Snowspeeder, you got
Yeah.
a walker, it's gonna happen. And in this case, it's pretty bad. All it is you approach the walker in the Snowspeeder, you get the prompt, you hit whatever button, and all it is now a mini game of keeping the Snowspeeder reticule in a gray box, and it fights you on it. It's like up, not all around the box. It's up and down. So it's like yeah, get in there, and that's it, and that's all it is. And then it gets a little smaller. Oh, this is tough.
So you want the version where you're actually driving around.
But you're already flying it. Like you fly it, and then you initiate the tow cable.
Yeah.
And rather than just keep Flying
like a
it?
one-handed thing. I mean, come on, that was supposed to be the hardest thing. Remember Shadow of the Empire, like
Yeah.
doing that? Like that was tough.
It sounds like they've just trimmed this game down to its like bare essentials
Yeah.
to try and like
It's-
cover all Star Wars bases.
It's a very, very simple game. And again, like if they weren't putting the full price on it, and if they
Yeah.
weren't putting the premium concept on top of it, like I would be cool with that. Like I've seen plenty of games recently where I feel like if you just sold it at it's like $40 or $45, like you'd have a much larger audience.
Yeah.
People would have lower expectations. Like they wouldn't be disappointed that you cut out, space battles or galactic conquest or, I mean, it's never really had a campaign, but.
Yeah, the fact you didn't put one in, or
Yeah, but like again, like the full price, like premium, it's so simple.
All right.
So I was curious. When you're low on health, does it regenerate automatically, or do you have to find a tauntaun, kill it, and crawl inside?
Shut up.
Warm up.
All right, that was our impressions of Star Wars Battlefront. Justin, thank you so much. Aaron, thank you very
Casuals
much.
play this game.
Yes, of course. Rob, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh,
and
thanks.
talking about us. There'll be more coverage, I'm assuming, on GameSpot during the week from both you guys on Star Wars. But in the meantime, if you get a chance to hop in the open beta yourself, let us know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited? Does this scratch your Star Wars itch? Does this scratch your Battlefield itch?
Scratches something.
Let us know in the comments below. All right, we'll be back in a second. Another big game came out today, or rather actually came out, Metal Gear Online. Mike Mahardy's in the wings to come on, tell us all about that. But first of all, we got a sweet announcement trailer for The Witcher 3, Hearts of Stone.
See ya.
Greetings, Geralt. Remember me? We met in White Orchard. I helped you find Yennefer. It seems you need my help again. Do you want my help? It's a deal. Let me tell you a story. It's about a man, worse than most. A man who refuses to pay his debts.
Well struck, Witcher. But perhaps you'd care to tell me why you meddled in a matter not yours. You're immortal. Indeed. But it's not what folk imagine. Not dying does not mean eternally living your life to the full. So it's a curse. You must be careful what you wish for there are consequences.
You need to get into the vault. We break in, each take what we need. You one I can count on.
Why do you wish to see the lady of the house?
See how I've reeled her in? Now don't fuck this up.
Man, that trailer way more spoilers in it than I thought, Mike Mahardy. That is not a good trailer show.
Yeah,
we played that like 2 weeks ago now.
Yep.
I think there was like 1 or 2 bits in that were like, we didn't even talk about it on last week's show because we thought that was spoilery.
Tried really hard not to talk about it.
And they straight up.
Tried really hard not to write about
Well,
it.
now
too.
it's ruined. It's out there.
Yeah.
Just talk about all of it.
If you didn't watch that, and if you're watching like one of the like, I don't know,
breakout
things
separate.
of this, do not watch the Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone trailer. There was like
Instead,
read
my review Thursday morning.
There you go.
Yeah.
When's the-
Spoiler free.
Spoiler-free review
I mean,
Thursday
you can just
morning
tell all the stuff that's in that.
at
They're
8
gonna-
a.m. Pacific.
Andy's gonna have such a hard time cutting out. Well, I'm guessing he's editing the video. All the spoilers from that, because the Witcher 3 review is like the game's so large that you can just sort of put in whatever in terms of footage, and like people can't tell what's spoilery and what's not.
Yeah.
But like this constrained expansion pack is gonna be like super hard to show that off.
Yeah, I feel bad for him that he's gonna get everything spoiled.
I feel bad for you.
Why?
No, I don't. Is it good?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I haven't gotten past the point where we played too.
Oh,
We
okay.
played about 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, it's still really good.
All right,
I'm
we'll
enjoying
talk
it.
about that. I bet next week then, when the embargo's up. Maybe not next week, week after that. We'll see. We've got other games to talk about today.
Sweet.
Mike Mahardy.
Metal
You're
Gear
on
Online.
you're here on the couch. Metal Gear Online, officially out today. You haven't played any today, though, right?
Not today, no.
But you played a bunch of it last week.
Yeah, I played like 6 hours last week
Yeah.
at Konami.
Before we get into what you thought of it back then, I want to talk a little bit about what happened today when our boy Josh Shaw, who is currently running the show, he can't come out here and talk for himself, but apparently there's some crazy like host migration problems happening where when the host disconnected from an online game, it like straight up just killed the game. And that's like some 2008 like online shooter problems, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's running into some early problems that you might expect from a more standard game. The fact that this is kind of coming much later in Metal Gear's life is a little bit weird that they didn't get that sorted out a little bit beforehand.
Yeah.
But
I remember the trailers for, it was a Call of Duty, whatever, Modern Warfare 2, I think it was, where they were like, look, host migration now, whenever that stuff happens. So yeah, there might be, let's just to put a caveat on it, there might be some technical hitches happening online with Metal Gear Online. But in terms of gameplay, Mike, what did you think about your time playing it?
I really enjoyed it. It's like enough of a game on its own, a multiplayer experience, but it also takes the parts I loved about single-player Phantom Pain and kind of just injects it into this competitive arena. It's still very much, if you're playing certain game modes like Cloak and Dagger, which is my favorite, it's like elimination, but the attacking team can only use non-lethal weapons.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then they get like permanent octo camo, but if the other team shoots them or like marks one of them, then it'll reveal them all for a few seconds. But defending team gets lethal weapons. It's just this cool dynamic, and then there's a lot of emergent stuff that comes out of single player. Like I'm sure you've seen a ton in Metal Gear, like the Phantom Pain.
Yeah, and the Phantom Pain, just whenever you're, going into an outpost, there's just always random crap seems to happen that you're like, oh, I wonder if I could do this.
Yeah.
And then it works out. And I was hearing about you and the Fulton recovery system and
Yeah.
how, talk to
Sure.
us a little bit about that.
So you can, like, there's CQC and whatnot in multiplayer as well. You know, you run up to someone, tap R2 as you're moving to just like throw them like onto their back, or you can hold it and then interrogate someone by holding L1, and then if you fill up the meter without someone else shooting you, which like good scouts, good snipers will stop you, you can reveal the entire enemy team for like 10 seconds. It'll mark them on the map for your teammates. And then if you're playing Bounty Hunter and there's these, so this is Comlink right here, it's kind of zones and the attacking team has to fill up that meter. You can Fulton people and it counts for more points toward you. But if you're playing Bounty Hunter mode, which has like these 2 ticket pools, like respawns, you deplete those by killing the other team. But if you actually Fulton someone with a high bounty on their head, it'll return that bounty into your respawns.
So if you don't kill them, if you actually like go to the effort of presumably one of the best players on the team, like stunning them, then Fultoning them.
Yeah, so say one of the other people gets 11 kills, it'll say 11 over their head, and you're like, the entire other team is like, let's protect that guy so they don't get those 11 back. And then right here, you can see that if you're Fultoning someone, you have to also kind of not protect them, but stop the other team from shooting the balloon. In one particular instance when I was playing last week, it was myself and one of the other guys on the other team. And we kept just stunning each other and trying to Fulton each other, but both our teams were on opposite sides, shooting both our balloons. So it was this endless loop of just like someone going up and then dropping, and then stunning the other person, and then that person going up, dropping, and then stunning. So finally, someone just lobbed a grenade into the middle, and we both died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it's really fun. I like it a lot. There's a lot of absurd stuff that happens, just like in that Metal Gear fashion. I was trying to get this disc in Cloak and Dagger. The attacking team can extract these discs to win. And I was about to bring it to the evac zone. I turned a corner, and Konami's solution to like a non-lethal mine is a D-Dog plushie.
Okay, yeah. I've seen this. You get sort of transfixed by it, right?
You squat down, kind of do this like amused look, this really, transfixed look with hearts over your head, and you're stunned for like 3 seconds. He's very cute. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I'd go and like really inspect it during a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so someone rounded the corner and shot me in the back, and it was so stupid, but in the best way. And I didn't mind at all. It's like, oh, this feels like Metal Gear, I guess.
Speaking of things that are stupid, I hear something about, is it Eva from Metal Gear Solid 3? Explain this one to me, Justin.
So you can get a tactical advantage. Eva, of course, has an outfit that is sexy.
Okay.
Like in the Kojima
revealing.
sense. Slightly revealing.
More or less revealing than quiet?
Nothing's as revealing as quiet.
Yeah.
But one of the things that she can do is if you want to get a little bit more maneuverability, you can unzip it. You know, it's tight. Your uniform can be very tight, so get some more maneuverability by unzipping it.
What is wrong?
And that'll let you move around a little bit more.
Yeah.
Did you play around as Eva?
I love Kojima, but there's
No.
like a certain part of his brain is still like a 12-year-old boy. Like I've been trying to spend so much money to get Quiet some goddamn clothes. It costs so much research.
Yeah,
to get her a jumper.
Quote, tactical advantage, unquote.
Oh my god. Well, there you go. Good to see the casual sexism coming into Metal Gear Online as well.
So I don't believe you're actually playing as Eva, but it's like I'm assuming it's a female. Maybe the
female
male
outfit,
characters
yeah.
can wear it as well,
Okay.
but it is an outfit.
Well, or maybe you can because there is a bunch of like popular characters you
yeah.
can play.
So you can play as Snake if you're on Team Snake.
Yeah.
Or you can
Team
also
Snake.
play as Ocelot, he has this like the double revolvers. If someone near you is marked, you can ricochet bullets off of walls.
That's cool, yeah.
They're pretty overpowered, but you can turn them off. And then Snake just has really good CQC with a prosthetic arm, like that.
Yeah. Can you still? Is most of the like? I know you only play for like 5 hours or so, but is most of like the late game development stuff from Metal Gear Solid 5 in this? Like, is there like rocket arms that like get blown out from?
It's got its own progression system entirely its own. So there is a lot of the same stuff. The D-Dog plushie, I believe, is specific to multiplayer. But I didn't see any prosthetic arms aside from Snake's. Everything else, you can get to level 37 your first time through, and then you ascend. It's kind of like Prestige, but next time through you get to 38, and you get like a power weapon, and then you go back to 1, then go up to 39. The 40 is the cap, but you kind of get a new top level item every time.
I like
you
that
get
it
up
actually
there.
bumps up a level each time you prestige, actually. That's pretty cool.
And so this is also completely separate from the other online mode for Metal Gear, where you have your base and you're building that up. And
Yeah,
then
the
you can-
forward operating base stuff. God, this game is just like I've played maybe 80 hours so far, and like I was talking to Dan at Giant Bomb about like where I am, and he was like, "Oh, you've still got like 30 hours left from where I am." Talk to us a little bit about the classes then as well. There's Infiltrator, Scout, Enforcer. How do they play differently?
The Scout is kind of just, a sniper or just longer range. They're kind of back from the action, and they also can, it's a big part of the game to like mark people.
Yes.
And the Scout, you can get perks that let you mark them faster because then you reveal them. I tried sniping at first. It was really tough just because there's that bullet travel time in Metal Gear, which translates into multiplayer.
And the action of the characters is very frenetic. Like they're running a lot.
Yeah, it's the same kind of movement that Snake does in Phantom Pain. Also, there's the Enforcer is more of the tank. You can get like heavy armor, riot shields, machine guns if you want. And then the Infiltrator, which is my favorite, you can equip camouflage, and also they're just faster. They also work really well if you don't put as many items in their inventory because then they don't get weighed down. That's a big deal for any class. The
Just
more
encumbrance.
Yeah, the more attachments and the heavier weapons and the more like armor you have, you'll get winded faster.
Wow,
when you're
that's
sprinting.
cool.
Yeah. So Josh this morning, he sprinted for like 5 seconds and it stopped, and you can hear the character breathing. He's like, "What the hell is this?" Like, and then if we look back, it was probably like a low rating on his armor, but. It's a trade-off that you can just do that on purpose if you're not going to be doing too much sprinting. Like if you're a scout, it might not matter if you're going to be kind of camping out anyway. But yeah, each character kind of lends a different, approach to playing, which is really cool.
It's cool. It seems like there's loads of like really interesting differences in this that you don't get in a lot of modern shooters or online shooters. Like most, we used to playing Call of Duty every year, or like even games like Destiny, which are breaking out in terms of other ways. Like most multiplayer sort of team multiplayer, whatever, it's still on the same very familiar lines, but between the game modes and the type of technology you use and even sort of stuff like that, just weird idiosyncrasies that exist, like encumbrance in a multiplayer shooter. It sounds like it feels like a very different type of online shooter.
Yeah, it is, and I was actually pleasantly surprised that, like Metal Gear has always been more of the single player experience to me, and I thought maybe this would be kind of tacked on, and it's very separate, but it's still very fun. I liked it. There's a lot of kind of crazy scenarios I wasn't expecting, like a D-Dog plushie or just 2 people going up and down in balloons and whatnot.
And that's only in 5 hours, so who knows what's going to happen now that it's out.
And fortunately, even though this is the last Metal Gear that Kojima's working on, the next Metal Gear will still be a single-player experience because you'll be playing at a pachinko parlor.
Exactly. I hear Big Boss has already been copywritten. Big Boss erotic pachinko machines.
All right.
Probably. If Konami's
you have
track
Solid
record
come
is.
in and he'll unzip his uniform.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Be more comfortable.
For more better agility. Yeah, there you go.
And what if they pan up and that is just Snake?
Tactical advantage. Yeah. All right, I'm back on board if that happens. That's pretty good. No, didn't work.
Yeah, they've got her goggles and everything. That's
so
very
maybe it
true
is.
to the original Ava outfit, but
Guess we'll find out pretty soon. Metal Gear Online, out now, technically. Everyone's rushing to download it on PSN, which takes its goddamn time. Although also on PC, of course, and everyone else. Xbox as well. There's nobody in the office playing on an Xbox, I've just realized. Yeah. Is there anyone in the office playing it? Andy's playing it for...
Our Xboxes are used up right now for other stuff.
Yeah, Andy's just doing it for Forza, I feel. But yeah, just
Well,
realized
the
of all the
problem
people
is
playing here, no one's playing on Xbox. That's
It's
weird.
you play what your friends are on, and when all of our friends are playing on PlayStation, well,
Hey man, I'm playing The Witcher 3 on Xbox One, and it's great. I love my 29 frames a second.
I'm going to play Rock Band on Xbox because DLC doesn't transfer over. I bought all of it on 360.
Oh, me too.
So.
I'm going to have to do the same thing. And the instruments presumably as well.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't. Thank you so much, Mike Mahardy, coming on, telling us all about Metal Gear Online. Very much looking forward to playing it. Let us know if you are. Thanks very much for watching today's show, folks. Let us know what you think about Metal Gear Online and everything else that happened on today's show. Thank you so much for watching. Justin Haywald, as usual, thanks for coming on. Any big stuff coming up on GameSpot over the next couple of days? Oh, he's having a stroke again.
What?
Ever since he came back from Tokyo, he has like 2 strokes a day.
Yeah. It's the travel, the being near the sun, the radiation. It's
restoration.
The heart just really doesn't work as well as it used to.
That was horrifying.
There's a lot of games coming out. I think everybody in the office is just kind of focused. Mike is double fisting reviews right now.
It's a good, Edward 40 hands with reviews.
Yes.
We have to finish this one. It's published.
No, we literally had to untape his hands from his hands are taped to controllers right now. We let him to come out in the lobby, but normally he is both strapped to his desk with a controller taped in each hand.
It doesn't work.
I have an IV. I had to pull it out for the lobby.
Any of those you can talk about?
Yeah. Well, Hearts of Stone will go up Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, and then Civilization Rising Tide, the expansion.
Oh, great! The expansion pack.
Which that's all done
Beyond
for the most
Earth.
part.
Civilization Beyond Earth. Rising Tide.
Yes, 2 colons. I hated writing that headline. It's a cool name, like Rising Tide, but to emphasize exactly what it is. That'll go up like an hour before The Witcher Thursday.
Oh wow, really?
Yep.
Okay, you're a busy boy. And Justin, obviously it's been a pretty packed news week early on. I guess yesterday was kind of an interesting curveball, or yesterday/today. With Primal. Anything else happening on the side over the next couple of days?
I don't know too much about what we can talk about. There's some interesting things coming up that are not just reviews and some more stuff before the PlayStation experience, which is going to be a big thing coming up in December. But there's still some cool news and cool previews and features.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff hitting the site that was really good. There's that Final Fantasy article that Alexa wrote yesterday. There's another version to that. I know Mary and Alexa are working on a bunch of Tomb Raider stuff as well. There's even more of that stuff coming out.
Yeah, I'll have something up on that end of next week. But yeah, Mary and Alexa have just completely.
And Danny's going to be taking a trip too. He has a
Oh, I am. We've got a trip as well. I forgot about that. That's next week, I think.
That is next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And also, myself and Andy's XCOM 2 features are going up today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Today's one is the history of XCOM, which is really fun because I did that video 3 years ago and had to write this one so it wasn't a complete copy of the other one. But I think it still is. But nobody's noticed. So yeah, loads of stuff going up on GameSpot. It is Q4, everyone. Video games are back. It's going to be a crazy couple of months. So make sure you stay tuned to GameSpot.com for all the latest reviews, news, features, and much more. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on GameSpot.com. See you then.